Well, afternoon, Hugh.
All right, Dan, how are you?
Good, I'm very good.
So today,
Got a bit of a cold.
Yeah, well, you look after yourself, mate.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
It's definitely not.
Well, you know, but it might be over by the time this goes out.
That's true.
Or
10 days for it all to be over. There'll be another new story.
Or this could be a homage to you.
True.
This whole show.
It's quite interesting. What do you think is going to happen in the 10 days between us recording this and us releasing the podcast?
What should we wait and see?
I've heard that Boris Johnson's got a black eye and he's trying to hide it.
Is that for real?
Mm.
Oh, God. I'm intrigued now. Well, why don't we just focus on Anna for a minute?
That's true.
So our very first Brazilian on the podcast. Is that true?
I think so. Unless there's family heritage that we're not aware of.
No.
From some
So
other people.
Anna Balarin, married to Hermeti at Mother. So she's the ECD there, and we're super, super excited to have her. I have to do a big shout out to John Cherry. John Cherry absolutely told me not to do this.
Can you do his voice as well, please?
We are Chori man. That's terrible. Sorry, John. But thank you so much for getting us to Anna. She's going to come and talk to us about Free the Feed, the enormous breast on the, or boob, as she, I think, described it, opposite Mother. And then we're going to talk IKEA. Is that right?
Yeah, and Bex.
The Bex stuff.
And it's all good because this is definitely breaking out of our traditional mould of billboards. You know, we've heard a lot from, I'd say the old guard. I'm sure they wouldn't be offended by that. Some of the
Oldish.
People, I mean, they're all about your age, right?
It's just getting started, isn't it?
Anyway, this is the stuff that breaks out of the billboard and the traditional billboard, and it's definitely more experience-driven outdoor. So I'm really looking forward to. We were
going to do a series called Beyond the Billboard. We might still do one called Beyond the Billboard.
Don't tell everyone.
Oh, bollocks! That's series 2. But this is a kind of, like you say, a little diversion away because all of Anna's work is. Well, then there's the KFC stuff, which we're going to talk about as well, which is lovely.
The KFC stuff came out just this week as well.
This week, so next week.
Hot off the press.
So anyway, very excited. And again, thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Anna, welcome to Behind the Billboard. Although the title of this week's episode could possibly be called Beyond the Billboard, because so much of your work and your husband, Hermeti's work, I feel it's more than just a billboard in a way. It feels quite often like, I don't know if I can say it's installation art. You know, it's kind of like, it has a quality of its own. It's very iconic, very graphic. I always feel it's got real wit to it and makes me smile. And there's something John mentioned to me, actually, that you kind of stumble across it and think, oh, that's cool, I love that, rather than something being rammed down my throat to be sold to me, etc. So I find all the stuff we're going to talk about, I love the way it comes across. So I wanted to say from both of us, thank you for taking us beyond the billboard instead of on the billboard.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
It's very
flattered
nice
and honoured to be here.
So one thing Dan actually just mentioned, because for people who don't know your whole story, could you possibly just tell us how you came from Brazil? Is it true you're a physiotherapist in Brazil?
It is.
And then you became one of the most famous creatives in London at Mother. Can you précis that at all?
So I actually worked in the NHS here as well. So I was a physiotherapist.
Fantastic.
In the UK. Yes, so I went to advertising school actually before I became a physio. So I studied advertising for a couple of years in Brazil. It was a very marketing oriented course, as most courses are in Brazil. There weren't at the time any specialized courses that were more geared toward creativity. And in the middle of the course, I just didn't feel quite right. I didn't feel like I belonged where I was. So I decided to pause it and go do something that was literally completely different. So like a 180 turn. Yeah. And then I became a physio. I studied 5 years to become a physio.
Oh my word.
And specialized in women's health. And then I was just starting my career as a physio, and Hermeti, who had always been very passionate about advertising. That's all he ever wanted to do.
And at this time, he was your boyfriend or your partner? Or?
Yes, we were my boyfriend. Yes,
right,
we met in high school, so
Gotcha.
quite young.
Gotcha.
And so he was always into advertising. He was doing this internship at the time at an agency, famous agency in Brazil called W Brazil. And then one of his CDs that had just come back from London said, oh, you know what, you should go to London and you do a couple of placements there for a year and you come back and then you can just like, you know, give a massive leap in your career over here. And he came and I came after a while.
Right.
And we never went back. But I was still working in NHS here, and he was working with a partner at the time, and his partner had to move from London. And he was, okay, it's so hard to get a new partner, and it is like a marriage, you know. And I was a bit frustrated with my career perspectives and the NHS, and I was like, okay. And he said, why don't we start working together? You have background in advertising, you like it, you like writing, you're a good writer, shall we try? And the agreement was always that we'd try, and the relationship came first, so if it didn't work we would stop. But that was 14 years ago, and and then for the first maybe 10 months, we were just doing the rounds with books and trying to get a placement. And it is so hard, still is, unfortunately, to get into the industry. And we, got a placement at Mother. And we've been there since. So it was 13 years last Tuesday.
Goodness me.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just sounds so easy. We've got a placement at Mother and now with the ECDs.
What? It did take 13 years.
Yeah. That's thanks so much for telling us. I didn't know.
But it is, I say that everything I know about advertising is very biased because I've only had Mother as my experience. So it is, everything I learned I know from
That's probably
there.
the best way to be.
But when you were a physio, I assume
Yes.
Hermetti was coming back with the work he's doing, and you were talking about it, and there's the evening conversation strays to what's happening at work.
Oh yes, absolutely. And we did before we started getting placements together. We did. At the time, the Financial Times, they ran a competition every month called The Toughest Briefs in the World. And anyone could enter the response to a brief. And the first one we entered, we won, which was a good sign that the partnership was working. So yes, but we did talk a lot about work at night, at
and
home.
has that changed?
During holidays, and we still do.
Oh, right. I wondered if but then you start working together and now we won't talk about it at home. It would be
No, I think that's wishful thinking. I mean,
yeah, that's slightly unrealistic.
It's natural. It's part of our life. It's very hard to divide, but we do get to go to work together every day, which is the great.
Have
side
you
of it.
found, because of your more senior role now, that you do spend less time together because do you separate onto accounts
Yes,
and stuff like that?
until we became partners. When we were ECDs, we would still try to work together in most of our accounts as much as possible. Then once we became partners, that became harder and harder. So we now, a few accounts we still work together, and we know we have an general overview of everything that's happening all the time anyway. But he is naturally more involved with some clients, and I am more with others. But
how does it work on KFC out of interest? Because that seems to be quite a big account.
We both worked on that pitch together, and we're both very involved in that. Yeah, nobody wants to give that one.
Yeah, I can feel that. I mean, we're not going to talk about it because there's not so much on it. But we were just saying before you came in how much we love the new stuff, and the billboards are they're beautiful because that you own the finger licking good moment, and it seems like it's such a brilliant idea, but you could have done it 10 years ago because it's owned by, it's there. But you just look at that and you go, oh yeah,
it's
there's no logo, it's just a shot. It's so
timeless.
cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was intending to do a shameless plug-in of that.
No,
It's very
let's
good.
plug it. Mark Denton just told us his book on air. So no,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a wonderful.
No, we're very proud of this one. It is
beautiful.
like it's the simplicity, and the brief was taste and craving, and thankfully it's like one very iconic, long-standing line that is an ode to taste. So like it's such the obvious thing. Let's bring that to life, and you don't need. To your point, you don't need a logo. You don't even need the words there. You just have it's good and show someone licking their fingers.
It's beautiful because a very rubbish version would be go in the corner. It'd go, it's finger licking good here, and then the logo, and you're going, but the whole beauty is in there, and it's just that's the kind of magic of great work.
Yeah, it is. I think simplicity and minimalism, especially in this medium,
We had Rosie Arnold in a couple of weeks ago, and she
Yeah.
talked about this thing that the clients have this tendency to fiddle, and there's I need the logo there, or I need the extra line, and what you've managed to do on this campaign specifically is not need it, and you've obviously got a client who's listening to your creative direction as well.
They're very, and they were quite conscious as well, wanting to preserve the beauty of the photos and of the moment. I think there was a big job done in casting because it can't be just you need to. We had a lot of models coming in because it's a tricky moved, licking your fingers. It can look beautiful, but it also can look a bit weird. So there was an extensive casting process to get to that. And what I like about it as well, it's like you said, the different pieces, they don't follow a rule. It's all each piece is built around the photographs. But yes, You must have heard all about this. I don't even know what is the standard that they're trying to sell now, but the Z formation was one stage where you have saying that your eyes travel from left to right and the top of the poster, and then they go down in a diagonal to the bottom left, and then so there was all these rules of where you should put the logos. I think the media companies were selling this to clients a long time ago, to be fair. But it just became...
I think it's still being sold.
Is it still being sold?
God, I'm feeling I don't even know this. I feel terrible.
You should be glad that you know that.
Yeah, no, you don't want to know.
know.
Because there was this one of the 8-second or 3-second rule as well, that people are just going to see it for 3 seconds, and so it had to be everything sped up in a way, or you'd have them ask they'd ask us to mock it up. And then to put it really tiny in a screen in a room. It's like, oh, this is how you're going to see it when you're driving. It's like, how do you actually know that? But I'm glad that's gone. I think in London especially, and it's something I hadn't experienced in Brazil as much, you are really close to billboards outdoors, especially in the tube.
Yeah.
You have this captive audience, so I think it's great that you have this daily dialogue. The brand has a chance to have this daily dialogue with the people going through the stations every day, which is it's great.
I think that creatively the outdoor environments that this is the ones that we're looking at, and we'll put them on the feed. These are the large billboards. There are 2 words on there. There is the hint of packaging from KFC. They work being seen instantly, but they would also work on the smaller screens and the smaller, the 6-sheet size, 4-sheet size. They work on tube card panels. That it works really well. And I think one of the things that some companies do, they like to, if you've got a longer dwell time on a tube card panel, they'll have
Try
a
to
tendency
cram.
to, I'm going to tell
Yeah.
a story now. I've got, I'm going to tell it across the entire carriage, and you don't need to when you've got something as pure as a outdoor ad as this one.
It's a lovely coincidence as well. That, I mean, obviously you know this bit. It says it's good, so that's already a win. Going, but then you go, no, but it's the finger licking bit, which is the funny bit. You're going, yeah, I know, but it still says it's good, right? So normally if it was sort of going, hey, this beer is good, it kind of doesn't really work. But it's just, it's got. Again, it sort of feels effortless, like, oh, of course you do that. But I imagine, that it's not like that. There's a lot of work gone into just coming up with something so simple.
Do you have the same photographer for the entire campaign?
Sam Wright, yes. Yeah, same
Great work.
photographer.
It's a kind of photojournalism style.
Yes, it's beautiful. It has a little bit of a haze.
Yeah.
So is this out? How new is this?
It came out on Monday, so
Oh man,
3-4 days ago.
so we're so current.
Yeah. Except this podcast will go out
Well-
in 10 days' time.
Yeah, so nearly current. Because we always start the bit we always talk about now. Sorry, I'll do it. I thought you were going to say it, but like, have you seen any stuff you like lately? I mean, this would be something we genuinely like.
You can't choose this one.
Yeah,
We've
and it's
done
not
it.
just because you're here. We do. These are bloody great billboards, and they're weirdly not of your ilk in a way because you're
Yes.
beyond the billboard. But for you,
Yes.
have your Hermeti seen anything recently? You thought, oh, I like that, or
It's interesting because I was judging creative review yesterday, and it was good because then I could see like what's the best of
Yeah,
the
it's a good
best of
moment.
last year. So like,
Perfect
okay,
timing.
now I can I don't have to
Go around looking for
yeah,
them. Yeah.
exactly. And I think one that stood out and had stood out, but it's a little bit older than last week, but from last year. I guess the mural, Channel 4 mural for Dairy Girls, which
Right.
is
Yeah.
fantastic. It's just amazing. It's again such a simple idea, but what makes it special, to your point early, is where it was done. You know,
Yeah.
because well, murals don't start murals. In short, it's just like every other
yeah,
We talked-
wall is now a mural.
yeah,
But yeah, that is such a special piece.
yeah. It's it's a great.
And another thing that stood out was the Spotify work. They've been doing quite strong work lately. There's the campaign from last year. I think the
Who, what, where, why, guys?
the one that talked about the past. Listen how you used to.
Yeah.
That's it. Listen. That's so witty and so so
The red
insightful.
wine is funny. Yeah. That's really hit home in our house.
And London calling versus
London
conference
calling versus conference calling.
And then 24-hour party people, and then 2-4-hour party people.
Yeah.
They. I mean, actually, Spotify, when they did this, because Dan and I have been saying, like, we don't want to just talk to creatives, we want to talk to clients as well. And the client who did the original Spotify, where they used the data and stuff, was really the start of you going, wow, Spotify really know how to use digital outdoor. And then I think it's that they got their tone exactly right, and then who, what, where, why have just gone onto it, but then the lines are so sharp.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pleased you said that as a real favourite.
We've got quite a few copywriter fans who tend to repost and comment on our stuff quite a bit. So I know they're big fans of the Spotify.
Actually,
campaign.
quite controversially, Oatly. So I think last week we spoke to, well, we did. I know we did. Rosie, and so this Oatly campaign, which is murals all around Shoreditch and stuff. So I kind of quite liked it. It's quite silly. It's quite irreverent. And then yesterday, a mate of mine called me out, going, "Mate, no, don't agree."
It's massively divisive.
It's
that.
really divisive. So I was saying we're going to go and talk about it. We're going to have a greasy spoon and we're going to talk about it. So Steve, I'll be there.
Let's talk about the medium in general. What's your opinion of where we are in terms of the outdoor industry?
I think we're in a really exciting place because, like you said, we've broken free from the billboard, and now it's almost like you're free to do anything that comes to mind and that you get a permission for, which is the hardest bit always, isn't it?
And sometimes not.
Just being surprising. with it, I think, is amazing. The fact that you consume it always, it's never in isolation. You know, when you're on a screen, even at home on a TV, more often than not, you're just 1 or 2, 3 people maximum enjoying that same thing. And when you're something out on the street, it's like a collective, it's always a collective experience, which makes it quite exciting and quite special and quite unique. In that way, it sparks, conversations, even if it's just like exchanges of glances. And it allows you to be very localized, which I don't think any other medium does, which is, again, very, very exciting and very special. And you can't hide from it as a creative. We used to have this at the end of Red Church Street, where our mother offices are. There was this huge 48 sheet, and it was bought by Coke, and we had loads of Coke accounts in the building at the time. So we had Schweppes, Oasis, Diet Coke, Red Coke. So there would always be something of Mother in that poster site. And it was quite daunting because you knew that the whole agency was going to see what was there. And if it wasn't good, if you weren't happy with it, it was going to be up there for a good 2 weeks. So there was that added pressure, and I think there's something nice about out of home and things that happen in the real world. It's real, it is real. It's it's a shared experience, and it's there for everyone to see. You can't pretend you didn't.
I think that, it's quite funny. There's a piece of work that goes out that you don't want people to see. You don't email it out. You don't send them a link to the story.
Exactly.
You can hide from it. It was okay. I'm not best pleased with it. But when it's outside and it's on a billboard and people are seeing it and people are commenting and people are sending it to you. You can't hide.
It's pretty good motivation to make it good. Like, it's either really exciting, going, wow, I've got like the poster brief, brilliant, or like, shit, if I get this wrong, it's over.
It's one of the reasons that the kind of the direct to consumer brands and the startups love outdoor. It's that they want to see their brand come to life, and once you put it in the outside world, it's real. The mattresses. Actually, going back to the tube card panels, it's why you see lots of direct-to-consumer brands on tube card panels. It's one of the cheapest outdoor mediums to buy, but they're getting their brand out there, and it's now not just an online thing. It's not a Kickstarter project. It's not a...
Is that why do you think why Oatly did that?
I'm not sure.
Because you're right.
It's real. It's
funny, if you put something out there, though, whether you like the Oatly thing or not, it's quite ballsy. You can't kind of miss it. And that, like you were saying, if you want to be really noticed quickly, buy a shitload of outdoor and make it really... really good.
And we joked that we should call this Beyond the Billboard. Ironically, we talked about some classic outdoor first on KFC. Can we just quickly ask you about your first billboard campaign?
Yes, it was a traditional billboard, but it was an installation within it.
Of course.
It was for a defunct brand, I think, Yellow Pages.
Oh.
I don't know if they're still around online.
I think they became online or
renamed Yell.com.
Yell.com.
Yeah, they were going through that transition at the time. And the poster was for Yell.com. And it was, I don't even remember the brief, but there were 2 sides. One was advertising their number, which was the 118 24/7. Remember when you had to call someone, and they did this magical thing of connecting you straight away to the person the service you wanted to call. And the other one was, I think, Yell.com, and saying that they could connect you to any service in the UK. So the concept was to build the map of the UK using the phone books, the Yale phone books.
Right,
And it was a beautiful installation, actually. And I wish I was trying to find a photo of it, but it is in one, a hard drive somewhere.
Okay.
I couldn't access it, and I couldn't find it online because it wasn't that big at the time.
And it was a traditional billboard.
It was a tradition. It was a 48 and a 6 sheet. And it was the first time we experienced, the amount of work that goes into, making something as simple as taking a photo. This one especially, because you had to build all this, first source all the books and then build it. It was like, a 3-4 meter high structure with hundreds and hundreds of phone books, and so one was the map and the other one was the numbers made out of the phone books. And then you went to studio, and then we knew nothing of the process of what happens after you sell something. Yes, it was great, just getting.
It's funny that moment, isn't it, when you think, how did I find myself here? I just drew something on a piece of paper, and now I'm like, I love that process in advertising where you become an expert on chewing gum for like a month, and then you just completely forget the whole lot.
We did something. Oh gosh, it was a long time ago for Yale.com. It must have been with you guys. It was their first kind of push into dynamic digital out of home, and it was all based around train stations and the times that the trains that were leaving would get into their arrivals location. So if you're leaving London in the morning, get to Manchester, it would recommend a Yale.com 5-star rated cafe for you to have lunch in.
Clever.
And it was, that was way before its time. That's before Google hit outdoors and before Facebook
doing the
hit.
same thing.
Yeah. I mean, this is, I want to say it's 2011, 2012, something like that.
I think I remember that. Is that ad shells?
No, it was on Transvisions, which are the big screens by the departure boards in mainline stations.
One other question before we go into your main work, which is about Brazil.
Yes.
And is there the same reverence for outdoor and posters in Brazil agencies there is in UK? Because here it is kind of like TV posters. They're still the kind of sexy briefs. Is it the same in Brazil? Or?
No, not really. Despite what might lead you to believe, Brazil is not in the real world, and there's not a strong culture of outdoor. Like growing up, I don't remember. I remember many TV commercials that, like, I could, remember the song and the narrative, and no outdoors at all. It's very functional and very retail oriented.
Okay.
Not all of it, but I would say mostly. There was as when we were moving over here, they passed this law in São Paulo.
I was going to ask you about São Paulo. They banned the posters.
They banned all posters because of visual pollution.
They did the same with graffiti as well, didn't they? 2 years ago?
I don't
3 years
remember
ago?
the graffiti. Oh, really?
Yeah. And the mayor got sent to prison and now graffiti's back. Nike did something really cool in Sao Paulo last year before, where they painted trainers on all of the characters in the graffiti, and they turned them into pop-up shops where they were kind of trainer drops where you could buy that trainer online. It was really cool. Nice. And it was in response to the mayor being put in prison.
So all these
corruption
billboard sites in Sao Paulo are still empty?
No, I think the law might have
the law's
reverted
changed,
because they're back now. You go in, you see.
Okay.
But to be fair, there were one too many. There was one too many. There were too many. It was a bit indiscriminate way where you could put them. There were like sides of buildings that the whole side of these really tall buildings were just a huge poster, and it was kind of relaxing after that they went. And I think people, because obviously, especially within the industry, there was this big uproar and all this media spent. But I think then people relaxed about it and got used to it, as you do. The money went into social or digital or whatever, and but now they're back. Yeah.
I remember seeing, I think it's Sarah Dunlop directed a commercial for Sky, and
Yes.
it did this thing, and I was, because I didn't know about it, and I was thinking, God, that is amazing how she's done that. And then someone said, no, it's really clever. They found out the billboards were empty, and someone had a very smart idea. I can't bloody remember what it was for, but I'd always thought,
Wasn't the green billboards? Was it?
no, it was something to do with Sky and the message, and it was I
It
think
was about not having the adverts interrupting you. It was for Sky
That's it.
Cinema,
Right,
so
okay.
you could watch the whole film without
Thank God someone's awake.
without the ad break.
yeah, that's very good.
But that was very clever
It's really well done.
analogy. Yeah.
So look, we better get into the three campaigns we want to talk about, and of course the first one we really want to talk about is Free the Feed.
Yes.
So I've just got to say a personal thing about this. So when I remember seeing it for the first time, and I literally did a kind of wow, and a sort of, that sort of thing. I sort of went, oh God, that's amazing as an idea. But then also I found the execution of it so good. There was so many things I loved about it. It's so dramatic. It was a bit like on my intro. It felt like a bit of art. And I initially had no idea what it was about.
Do you think you could pitch it to us?
Yeah, could you tell us
pitch to
why-
the client? I'd love to hear.
Tell us why
I
the-
really want to be in the room. I'm going to close my eyes as you pitch it.
Tell us about 5 50-foot breasts.
So it went Free to Feed. Actually, not many people know about this, but it was a 2-phase campaign, and it started as a mother project. So mother projects are just projects that the agency gets behind and funds. When we get behind causes that we care about, and usually we do a mother project around Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the hardest, briefest to crack, because you're always your hardest, toughest client. And a couple of weeks before, we were still dabbling. There were like a few ideas going around, and we didn't know what to do. And this stat came out, I think Public Health England released it, that 63% of women felt embarrassed about feeding in public. And it wasn't just breastfeeding, it was just feeding in general, because then women who were giving bottles to their babies were questioned, why aren't you breastfeeding? And the ones who
Right.
were breastfeeding was like, why are you doing this in public? So it was like just new mums in general being judged. And then that's when the idea came about. And it's like, okay, let's just you don't want to see boobs. Here's a big, massive boob.
And so when you've got a mother project, is there a kind of exec committee who are making the decision on which route to take, or is it the...
Yes.
And it's the ECDs and
yes.
But I know you just said it in a very throwaway manner and said, so we just got a great big boob. Did you spend weeks wringing your hands with Hemeti and what we're going to do, or did you just go?
So no, when then the boob idea came to us, we said, yeah, this is the one we're going to do, the boob, and it was quite different. The original idea was that we would, in the days leading up to Mother's Day, we would put the boob in several places around London, so around playgrounds or nurseries where we knew mothers were breastfeeding or feeding their babies, and then we were going to film that and then almost release the film on Mother's Day.
Right.
And we even had the permissions from the councils.
Oh wow.
But without us knowing, the boobs were being manufactured in India.
Right.
And 3 days before they were due to, be put up, our contact here in the UK, who we thought was making the inflatable, said, yeah, so the boobs are actually in India, and and they got held up in
Oh my God, this is comedy.
in a British Airways flight that the cargo was above the weight limit. So everything that was above like 100 kilos couldn't get into the plane. So the boob was one of those things. So it got stuck in customs.
The boob was stuck. Can you imagine the email subject goes round?
Oh my
round
God, the
agency.
things you get
Has
into.
anyone seen the boob? Yeah, the boob's stuck in customs at the moment.
What about the other 4? They're all there with it.
So we didn't even know, because we had been sent photos of work in progress of the boob, and there was no way you could tell. It had been an unusual sunny week over here, so it was blue skies in the photos. If it had been raining here, we would have suspected. It's like, okay, this is not in the UK. But it was sunny there in the photos. It was sunny here, so we're like, yes, it's just around the corner. It's going to be 2 hours before it gets to London. So that was very panic-inducing moment, and there's a producer waiting at the airport for the boob, because it not only had to arrive but then had to clear customs here, which again a big unknown. I don't know.
I just want to see the customs guys who's going through the cargo list. 5 giant boobs. What?
And it was only one. It was only one
at
that stage. It was only one boob, because the first outing of it was the only one. So we had to change tack, and that's why it did arrive like the afternoon before, on the Saturday before Mother's Day, and that's why it ended up in the roof across the street from Mother, which ironically turned out to be the perfect spot for it to be, because you had all the movement coming out of Shoreditch High Street Station going to the Columbia Road Flower Market on Mother's Day, or people coming to lunch. And of course you had then your influencers taking, the photos and posting it up. And then it just went wild. Like when like Hermetti and I had this test, we really know something that we did, got momentum when you have people from Brazil sending it over to us without knowing that we've done it. So that's like the best. So
what a feeling.
And it did. And it took we didn't put anything, we didn't orchestrate it. Our intention was just like, we're going to put it out and see what people do. It had fly posters against the wall that said "free to feed" hashtag, and a little blurb about what I just said about the stats. And people started using the hashtag, started using it in a way that a lot of women was posting photos of themselves feeding and breastfeeding using the hashtag, which we never asked them to do, but was amazing and such even better than what we expected. And what very few sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, I just want, because I'm fascinated by the process as well, because if you said, so you've had the idea, and then you've briefed people in India to make it, and then it turns up late, which is already quite stress-inducing, like you say. But then how did you get permission to put it up on the roof of a building from the council? So
when it's on the roof of the building, I'm not sure, but I don't think you need permission from the council, because it's a privately owned building.
But then if it's of a material, it's quite a provocative thing. Yeah. So then, no? We had issues when we did the second round of the boobs, and that was with a client. Then we had issues of a lot of places that had agreed to have the boob in the roof. Suddenly, when they went and asked their landlords would go like, not really. Because that's quite ironic, isn't it? The fact that they're now against the boob.
But the councils never, even when we had the original round of approvals that we were going to do it on the ground, the councils never had an issue with it, interestingly. And I never thought about it. And the boob originally was going to lactate. And nobody knows this thing. This is an exclusive.
This is an exclusive.
This is
Podcast
an exclusive.
Oh God, I'm so happy.
In proximity as people walk past, or was there like a?
But it had a mechanism, and it worked like.
Were you and Hermetti going to stand behind it?
20% of the time there was a pump, and then it was a very windy day. It was already like stressful keeping the boob in place, and we're like, okay, let's give up on the milk just in case it falls on top of people, and then I don't want we don't want any trouble with that.
Your producer must have been very very patient. That's so cool. I love that.
So just talk us through it. It started off as a mother project, and then it went to a client.
So then, this was 2017, mother project. In 2018, we started working with LV, which in the launch of their breast pump. And so we did a film for them in 2018. And then last year, 2019, they wanted to do something bigger and something for Mother's Day. And then, amongst other ideas, we proposed doing the boobs again, and they loved it.
They'd seen the project first time around.
Yes, they had, and then that's how we ended up with another 4 boobs. So we had the original one plus another 4.
And did you go back to the same people?
Yes. So but we knew this time where it was being made, so we knew it was going to take a while. And that was it ended up being five boobs in East London, because in the end, it wasn't our intention to have them all in East London, but most of the buildings that by coincidence would agree to it were based in East London. A lot of the others started getting a little bit cold feet, and I guess people know their audience.
Were there any issues of wind, or did you have to sort of like bolster it down?
Yes, they're very heavy, and the original one, which is the biggest, it's 6 meters in diameter, so it's huge. But they come all like with the
ballast,
with the right hooks and weights,
because they're so well crafted as well. I think they could be very sort of like, in the wrong hands, they could have looked quite cold and unappealing, but they feel very warm and sort of like they're just.
Yeah, we had loads of the weird conversations you have in advertising about nipple color and texture, shape. Very fun.
Yeah, but the whole project is just brilliant from start to finish. I suppose in a way you were lucky. Well, not lucky, but by making it your own mother project, you were your own client. So in a way, you could do it exactly as you wanted.
Yes.
And in a way, that was the kind of perfect dry run, wasn't it? In a way.
Yeah.
And then once you show that to a client,
then it was. We
it's
kind of knew what we were doing. But it's still challenging having the 5 going on at the same time.
Yeah.
But it was very special, especially the first one for me. I had recently become a mother when it happened, so my son was only 4 months old,
right.
And I was breastfeeding at the time.
So there's a bit of a passion project there for it.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
it's very special.
It's brilliant. It's so exciting. I could end the podcast now. I just feel so excited we've met and had a chat.
Well, we're not going to, because I want to move us on to
mate.
one of my favourites, and mainly because I'm a bit of a tech geek. I would love to talk to you about this Beck's, the Green Box project. So, first of all, would you mind just explaining a bit about the project and where it came from, and some of the kind of executional techniques that we're talking about?
Yes, if I remember, yes. I'm glad you know about it, because a lot of people. That's why I brought my laptop on to show you some of the, and I will do later, because I have some better photos than the ones you that are available online. So Beck's were a client, and they came to us. Beck's had, especially in the UK, a history of supporting the arts. And they just wanted to, go beyond the labels, which that's what they were famous for having the artists design their labels. So the Beck's art labels, and you have like from Tracy Emin and Damien Hirst and all people before they even became household names designing these labels for Beck's. And they wanted to take Beck's global and bring this support to the arts globally. So we had this crazy idea. if we knew how much work it would give us at the time of making this. It was this box, the green box, that would become like a global interconnected digital gallery, and using AR technology, which was budding at the time. And so the idea we got a few, 20 artists maybe at a time to come up with bespoke artworks, and we had many boxes. I don't even remember how many now, so spread around the world. So we had a couple in America, a few here, we had some in Italy, in Belgium, and if you had to have the Bex app because there wasn't like automatic QR codes although there wasn't QR, it was AR. So essentially you had the Bex app, held it against the box, and this artwork would come up on your phone, and each artwork was specific to the location of that box. And then that was the launch of it. And it would be slightly interactive. So if you walked around, it was all moving and singing and dancing. Some of them had music as well. And that was the launch of the project, which was to commission hundreds of more artworks from artists that would send us their ideas, and we would put them in boxes around the world. But it was technically very challenging because AR wasn't as solid as it is today.
Yeah,
so,
you were on the bleeding edge of technology when it came out.
I say it was like 5 years ahead of its time. If it had been done 5 years later, it would have worked so much better. And the internet connection was our main challenge, because there wasn't 4G everywhere. So we had to install the boxes and then have a modem somewhere next to them that
to create Wi-Fi.
It was considering the barrier to get to it. You had to download the app, you had to get into the Wi-Fi, and it was actually a lot of people did engage with it, considering, but it is still. Today, I think it was one of our most ambitious projects, and one that every time I look back at it, I even get emotional. It's like, oh my God, there's so many people involved, not just internally, within the agency, all the technologists and all the art buyers, but also on the Jason Bruges, who is the designer who designed the box. And yes, the number of artists, it's just like incredible. We got still my biggest claim to fame is it got us into the design museum. So in 2012 it was chosen as one of the top pieces of design of that year, and it was exhibited in the design museum for a few months. But
that's amazing. But the Bex was very pleased with that.
Yes,
that's amazing.
But like he was saying at the beginning, I think there's the theme and we're seeing them now as we look at Free the Feed and this, is that they're experienced by people in the out of home space, and that's kind of that's the beauty. And you can get involved and you can do something, and you can you can see something once you've performed the action. Download the app and you can see something, and you're rewarded for that with a unique piece of artwork for each location. It's really nice.
Oh yes.
Is that something you pervade in all your work or with your teams sometimes if you get a billboard brief, or do you just treat each project differently? Because I suppose, you know, Bex is very associated with the arts. That's kind of like, it's a natural thing. But
yes, this Bex wasn't initially it was an open brief, and we got there because of what you said. We wanted people to interact with it. We wanted it to mean something. We wanted the physicality of it. We didn't want it just to live in the digital world. And I think what made Bex very special was the connection. It almost, the box was a portal between the physical and the digital world, when at the time it wasn't something that happened a lot. It was quite there was like this magical aspect to it. But I think provoking a reaction is always in our heads. It's
But that's better,
when you
isn't it?
when you get and you do get specific a billboard brief, and they are fun too. You know, it is challenging, like the KFC one. It's hard to get to very good straight print out of home brief. So yeah, I think provoking an emotion and a reaction is always what we try to do. And sometimes, you know, the installation is there for the taking.
I think it was ahead of its time. I mean, although you say it was on the bleeding edge of it, kind of at the time people were going, "Wow, it's like amazing." You hold your phone up and you can see stuff coming out of the Statue of Liberty. I mean, that's like kind of stuff from Hollywood at the time.
And that is, you know, that they live even beyond these installations as well. So the Free the Feed lived online.
Yes.
People using the hashtag, people referring back to it as they kind of go on their own journey for freeing the feed and the
champagne bowl.
And same for Bex. It lived on beyond the experience itself. So people are sharing their images of what they're seeing, and they were sharing those socially.
And the artist contribution as well. And another challenge was that the artists sending us stuff, they were all, in a way, traditional artists. So they were like musicians or painters or sculptors or textile designers. And then our challenge in the second phase was like, how do we turn these things? We had people like sending us, I don't know, a piece of cloth. And it's like, how do you turn that into a digital experience? Whereas if we would have done it a little bit later, you would then have native digital artists that they would already, you know, come with the idea of how to make it interactive. A lot of then the people who entered the competition, when we had to bring their artwork to life, a lot of it had our input as well, because like they couldn't get there on their own
I sat in a talk last summer with Super Union on the BBC Two rebrand. A friend of mine,
which is amazing.
It's really nice stuff. But they go out to all the different animation houses and artists to do the different animations, and it's really interesting to see their two-way communication between branding agency, the client at BBC Creative, and the individual artists. Some of them, you know, one of them was, I think, was Aardman, and there's all these different animation houses who come up with these, but they've obviously got their way of working, but then there's the kind of the it's working together to make sure that the artist's work is doing what the brand needs it to do, and that the branding agency is involved as well.
And it doesn't get diluted in the way, which is always our worry with Bex, that
Can we move on from beer to a store, a very big store called IKEA? You guys have just done so much amazing work on this. I imagine that could be a whole podcast series in itself. But we're in a billboard territory. So we wanted to just talk to you about your third piece here, and this is the Greenwich store. The
Greenwich launch.
So
very exciting.
I just wanted to ask you before we get into the work, because it's brilliant work. Again, it's very very out there, as in it's outdoors, but it's not like, doesn't feel traditional. Very lovely, surprising, stumbled upon. Did they brief you and go, this is the most sustainable store, go and do some stuff? Or did you guys go, hey, should we do stuff on that?
There was a precedent to the store launch, which is 2 years prior to this. We had done the Sheffield store launch. And that was just, we want ideas for the launch. That could have been anything. It could have been, a 20-second film online. And what we suggested that they do is that to bring the wonderful everyday to Sheffield, to the town. So we had 12 installations or points where people would interact with IKEA in the weeks leading to the store launch. So we had a fika time. Fika is the 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock break where everyone in Sweden stops to have a coffee and a pastry. Right. So we had this fika cart in the middle of Sheffield. We had these cushions thrown around a square. One of my favorites from that campaign was we reupholstered the trams with IKEA fabric, nice. And we had the patterns of the carpet and in the tram, and it looked beautiful. We had installations of galleries, a little art gallery in an underpassage with works from local artists, but all within using IKEA frames. Right. So there were 12 different things that we did for Sheffield. And then that turned into almost like the brief for the following store launches. And right. Greenwich, so was our third that we did for third store launch that we did for IKEA. And it just felt natural. And it was the most sustainable store, so that everything we did for Greenwich was within that team.
And did they? So they built that store knowing it was going to be the most sustainable store.
Yes.
So in a way, it was inherent in the product. So you
yes.
didn't really need a super brief.
Yes. Yeah.
So could you? Because for the people who don't know it, could you just describe for us, first of all, the boat, the toy boat? Because I find that just wonderful.
Yes, the toy boat. So IKEA, and I didn't know that this before I had a child, but they have, and I bought it as well. So when you go to IKEA, there's these iconic toys that they have, and they never go out of the collection. This little toy boat. It's a plastic boat, and it's blue, orange, and yellow. And so we recreated the boat in real life size, real human size. Right. And it went through the canals, and it was how would you describe it, actually? Like a rubbish collecting boat. Mm-hmm. Within it had a technology that it collected rubbish. So it collected plastic and other rubbish from the river as it went along. And it's remote controlled, so you could get the population interacting with it. Right. And they all came along and they played, especially the kids loved taking the boat around. Great. And then all the plastic collected is taken to the store and is recycled. Right. So yeah, that's a very very fun one.
Huge amount of PR. It's just wonderful bringing something small and making it very big. It's just so childlike.
Yes, and it was for a year, 18 months. It sat at the top of our table, a main table at the agency, and we recently took it out. Yeah, so after there were two. Originally, so one of them went back to the agency.
And did the boat go all the way down to the store in Greenwich? Was that the idea, or was it was just on the Thames, just tidying stuff up?
It was. There wasn't a specific circuit. It was just around. It had to be within a range from whoever was controlling it. So it didn't just.
Yeah. There's the creek that runs around the side of the Deptford Creek. That runs around the
Deptford
side
Creek. That's
And who made this for you? This boat? Do you know? Was it a factory in India? The people who were doing the breasts?
No, it was done here. The technology from that collected it was an existing. It was some guys from Asia. And then we just did the cover over here.
Wonderful.
And was it one of the hero pieces of the campaign, or was it as kind of social play as well? It was built for the film that went with it.
No, it wasn't built for the film. The film, there was no film actually.
Right,
we
okay.
did it was just for PR, like the not just for PR. It was serving a purpose, but there wasn't a specific media output. And the same with the wild homes for the wild animals, which were the beautiful. We got in contact with 10 artists create these homes for insects and birds and bats, because with the over construction, especially in London, these animals don't have where to live anymore. So using upcycled IKEA furniture, they came up with these wonderful constructions.
Brilliant.
Which
They're so beautiful.
yeah. So there was that was they're beautiful, and they're still in the park.
I'm intrigued. When you sold the campaign in, because that's two elements, and the third one I'm just looking at now is the ad shells, which are actually classic conventional
Yes.
ads, but they're not, because it just says 3,590 steps. So you're encouraging people to walk. Did you sell the whole campaign in one hit, or did you start to find these ideas as you went along?
No, we always knew it was going to be several activations. Okay. Yeah, so we would come with a package, and obviously when you come with 5 or 6, and then not all of them end up being made, but it was all part of we wanted to have several touch points, and
the walk there. Campaign, the different steps. I love the multi-panel option, which is I'm going to read it out. So the one on the left says 22,598 steps, and the one on the right says 22,595 steps. They are exactly 3 steps apart. There's 2 panels. So the hyper contextuality of this element of the campaign is one of the things that Outdoor's famous for, and I think it's done really well here.
Yeah, and there was a person who did walk, counting the steps.
Who was it? It was an intern. It was an intern, wasn't it? It was an intern.
No, Betty, tell me it's your husband. You go there, and I'm going to do this.
And there's also one where it shows 2 ways. So the poster is side by side, and it shows you the 2 ways where you can go, and each way has a different step count. But
I'm so glad those are actual Fitbit step numbers from someone who actually had to go and do it.
Such a good, just a brilliant client. You can feel the fun and the joy of the work.
Absolutely. Yes.
I think long may it continue. I think it's just such a wonderful campaign.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're over an hour. We better.
Well,
you said you were going to talk, Matt.
No. Just as Annika, she's like, I don't know.
You're good. You're good.
I'm not going to say.
You're good interviewers.
Oh.
Thank you. Well, listen. We always end with a couple of classics from our questions. So the first one is the billboards that didn't happen, and we've got ... yet. Is there? Give us the poster that got away.
I don't know. So I had to ask Hermetti for help on this one, and he couldn't remember either. It is, yes.
But that's all right. Maybe you've had them all the good ones.
I don't know.
This is not. You don't have to have an answer for that.
Yeah, I don't know if I do.
You sold all the good ones. That's good. That's fine.
It looks like IKEA. But the other thing we asked.
Yeah, it's still to come. It's still to come. The best one's still to come.
The other thing we ask is, do you have a favourite billboard? One that you really like? You've seen
in history or lately? I think historically, like I said, in Brazil, I didn't have the culture growing up of being surrounded by amazing billboards, and that only came when we moved here, and you start seeing them all around, and then you start being familiar with the ones from the past as well. And I bet you get this all the time, but Economist ads.
We've spoken a lot about The Economist. we keep thinking we should do a whole episode because everyone comes and says, well, The Economist is quite good.
It goes back to that thing of simplicity and minimalism. and of it being rewarding. I think that we haven't talked about this, but I think this is so important. It needs to be rewarding when you, like you said, the exact 3-step difference between one poster and the other, or in the case of KFC, the fact that finger licking is not written in the poster, and the viewer makes the connection and gives it that little endorphin rush, like, oh yeah. And I think that's what The Economist did so brilliantly. All of the posters you felt
make you think,
made you feel intelligent by just by reading it and
there was,
deciphering it.
There was one we hadn't seen any for ages, and we asked Tim Riley why that was, and he said, "Oh, well, look out!" And in Old Street the other day, there was one up, and it said, "Siri's listening, say something intelligent," which was just such a great on the nose. There were 3, weren't there?
There was the jumbled letters one as well.
Yeah.
I mean, my social feed, obviously, that working in the outdoor space, full of people who love outdoor, they're all claiming that they're super intelligent because they worked it out. That's Roy Shepherd, if you're listening, I'm talking about you.
There was a very sweet campaign from The Guardian last year. It was tube cards. That's where I saw them in tube cards. I don't know if they were anywhere else. But which kind of had that little wit and that little reward, which was one of the executions of one of my favorites. Is this woman reading The Guardian with a child next to her, and it just said influencer. So it's just like so simple, nice. But so nice. It's just like, it's
and then the last thing we have to ask you, and we ask everyone this again, is just for people listening, old and young, people still wanting to get in the industry or get on in the industry, do you have any tips you live by, or any little rules that you and Hermetti say, no, that doesn't fit into our belief system? Or, I mean, obviously simplicity is the key, but...
Yeah, I think doing work for real people in the real world is quite important. It's up there in our criteria. We are very against doing work just that talks to ourselves, talks to our industry. There's so much out there. It's just, people trying to be clever for the sake of being clever. And
are you going to mention the Mouldy Whopper?
Controversial. No, leave it.
I've already written about it. So.
That's work for us, right? That's for the Cannes jury, definitely.
So I think that's when it's really rewarding. It's like you have. We said, Mother, there's the cab driver test. When the cab driver mentions you, have you seen that ad? And that's like it's out there. It's for real people to be consumed. So,
cab driver or your mum.
Yeah,
sometimes.
or your mum.
Yeah.
Our mums are hopeless because they rarely get to see anything we do. So. So we have to pin our hopes on the cab driver.
And what do you look for in books in people's portfolios when they come in to see you, other than the
strong insight? Yeah, strong insight, and I think that's the hardest thing to develop. We didn't even know what was an insight. I remember our first review, the creative director asked, not us thankfully, but asked another team that was in the same review. We do collective reviews at Mother, and it's like, what's the insight? And I remember like writing in my book insight and in my notebook, and then we're like, oh my god, we need an insight. And then naturally we went back to our book, and naturally the insights were there, but we weren't thinking clearly. And a lot of, I think, of the young, not young necessarily, but students or people who are coming into the industry, it's very easy to get enamored by technique or trying to do the installation, but without having a reason to do it, and then use the technology and build an app or do something in social. And it's just, if it doesn't have a very strong and human and true insight behind it, it just doesn't work.
Well, your boat, weirdly, the boat, so you could have just done a big boat, toy boat, and going, IKEA now open in Greenwich. But the thing I love about it is you go, no, it was cleaning things up because it's the most sustainable. And then you're going, oh God, that's a good insight, isn't it? So I love that. I thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for coming today. We know you're very busy.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you for having me.
We've really enjoyed. I've learned a huge amount about many things.
We're going to go get some KFC now. 'Cause I'm really going to recreate one of those pictures.
Thank you, Anna, so
Brilliant.
much.
Anna.
Thank you.
Thank
it was
you.
a pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers. That was epic.
Was.
She said she wasn't very talkative. And she was,
As soon as we opened the door, she said, "Oh, I don't know if we're going to be able to. I'm going to be able to talk about it."
because they had an hour. Just got an hour. She goes, "Oh well, I don't know."
Yeah, it's great.
It's brilliant. There's so much,
Really good.
so many things I didn't know. Hopefully, a lot of things that other people don't know either. So
I love that insight. It's all about insight. You know, especially for what goes in your book. What's the insight? If you can't answer that question, you don't have a concept. That's a good.
Yeah, she's great. But
tip
to get the tip as well as then to hear the stories about all of her work as well. I think she's very generous.
We talked.
Guest.
We talked recently about the kind of the randomness of our industry and the scrapes you get into and the conversations you end up having. I just, the boob stuck in customs is a great version of that, and you can see the email chain from the producer and project manager.
Imagine your friend of Anna saying, "What did you do at work today?" Well, I've got a story.
Yeah.
So no, she was brilliant. I don't know, can't speak highly enough of her.
That was really good.
She was great.
Everyone, thank you again for listening. Don't forget to follow us on social. You know all of the handles by now. I don't need to. John's just going to fade me out as I start talking and going on about the...
I'm not even here.
Hugh's halfway out the door. He's off. So thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.